You know what the weird thing is? We've actually seen this shoe a ton of times over the last couple of months, but now it's official and I actually have my hands on a pair. This is the Air Jordan 36. Yo, hey guys, what's poppin'? Jacques Slade here, and welcome to my first look and first impressions of the new Air Jordan 36. I've actually had this pair for a couple of days now, and though I haven't had the chance to actually play in them because, well, I wasn't allowed to let anyone see them until today, I do have a few thoughts right off the back. For those that are unfamiliar with the Jordan signature line, this all started back in 1985 with the Air Jordan 1 and was popular right off the back. So popular, in fact, that Nike ended up making too many in response to how the shoe was selling, and a lot of the extras actually ended up in bargain bins and then ended up on the feet of skaters. Now, that's obviously a topic for a different video, but it's always interesting to see the history of a sneaker and how people actually view that sneaker today. And speaking of that, I'd argue that the Air Jordan signature line is the most anticipated signature shoe release of the year. I'd even argue that it's been that way since the beginning. Now, don't get me wrong, I think people get hyped for other signature shoes, but I can't think of another signature release that has the sort of impact and anticipation you get around the Air Jordan launch. I could be wrong here. Let me know down in the comments if you think another shoe holds that title, but I feel pretty confident in that answer. Anyway, so as for this model, let's get to the basics and get all of that stuff out of the way. The price is set at $185 US, and there are going to be a total of 8 colorways dropping between now and the middle of September. Jordan is taking a slightly different approach with the release this time around, and it breaks down into 2 categories. There will be a global release, and then there'll be regional releases. Here's a quick breakdown. The PEs, they're all going to be regional. Kia Nurse drops on 8/17 in Canada and the EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Guo Ayan drops the same day, but only in China. Jason Tatum, the pair that I have, will drop on 8/21 in North America. Rui Hachimura drops on 8/22 in the APLA, or Asian Pacific Latin America. And then Luka Doncic, his drops on September 4th in the EMEA and the APLA. For the global releases, you have the Glory colorway that dropped today, the First Light that drops on 9/2, and the Psychic Energy, which drops on 9/16. Now, technically, all of these pairs are exactly the same when it comes to the tech, which I'll get to in just a moment. The main differences are the colorways used on the shoe, the logo for the PEs, and some minimal material changes on the upper. Certain pairs outside of North America will also come with the XDR outsole, but besides that, you're basically getting the exact same shoe. Now, the pair that was sent to me is the player exclusive version that was created for Jason Tatum, and although it is, again, mostly identical to the other pairs, there are a few places that make it personal to him. The tongue features his JT logo, which looks great. You also get the number 0 in Morse code along the ribbon, and the colors on the upper, they actually have a direct connection to Jason and his gold medal from the recent Olympic Games. Other than that, though, the shoe is pretty much the same as the other 36s that are set to launch over the next couple of months. Though, to be fair, I really like the way that the white and the vivid blue, they call it, contrast on this pair in comparison to the others. When you get your pair, the 36 comes in a newly designed box, which I always appreciate. Jordan Brand has been really great about extending the storytelling of their premier product with the boxes the shoes come in, which I think helps make the shoe more desirable. White seems to be the theme for this year, with pops of gold to finish out the design on the box. You've got a few Jumpman logos, an Air Zoom logo, and an Air Jordan 36 written out a few different ways. You have the stylized font on the top of the box. It's written out in plain text on the side, but then you have it written in Roman numerals on the tag. I guess they just really wanted to cover all of the bases. That way you know you were getting the Air Jordan 36. They also added a cool, well, I guess I really shouldn't say cool, but a different way of opening the box with the Velcro flap. It would have actually been really dope to make it so you could pull the shoes out of that side, but at least you can flip up the flap with the Velcro, I guess. Moving on to the actual sneaker, the first thing that caught my attention when I got them in my hands was how light they are. Jordan Brand put a focus on making the shoe lighter while keeping it more durable, and you absolutely notice it as soon as you pick up the shoe. To keep the shoes lighter, they've made a few adjustments to the design as compared to the Air Jordan 35. Now, a lot of the shape and feel of the 36 seems similar to the 35. There are a few key differences that I think people will really enjoy. So first, let's start with the upper, or rather the new material that they're using on the upper, which is called Jacquard Lino Weave. The Air Jordan 36 is the first shoe from Nike Nike as a whole that uses this new upper material, and it has a few attributes that make it different from what we felt before on a performance basketball shoe. From just the touch of it, it almost feels like a recycled plastic. It isn't as hard or as coarse as that material, but the texture seems very similar, if that makes sense. The material is also lighter than previous uppers that Nike has used, but it does maintain the strength and durability you need from a basketball shoe. According to the brand, the weave material bends and contours to your foot, and it provides support where it's needed the most. Just taking a look at the shoe, you can actually see the pattern of the weave and how it's adjusted based on the different parts of the shoe to create resistance and to contour to your foot to provide that support where it's needed. Though it is meant to be durable, it isn't going to be resistant to contact, and you can tell because Jordan Brand added an overlay at the toe. And if you look closely, you can actually see that there's an underlay there as well to provide additional support to that material. Outside of those two areas, if you actually hold the shoe up just right, you can see through the material to the other side. My guess, or really my hope, is that this is going to force people to step up their sock game, since you'll be able to see directly onto your foot. On the performance side, now this should help keep your shoes breathable so you don't sweat a lot because there's plenty of airflow. I could totally see Jordan Brand using the see-through aesthetic of the material to add some color pops and to make some very interesting colorways in the future. I'm not sure if that's actually on the docket, but it's definitely an idea that came to mind when I was looking and inspecting the shoe. Now, continuing on with the rest of the upper, it looks like Jordan Brand is using a mix of leather and synthetics to create the overall upper design. The tongue is made out of neoprene and it's highly perforated to help get that air flowing. And then on the tongue, you have a very faint version of elephant print on the front side. On the pull tag, which connects down to cover the laces, you actually get our first look of the Air Jordan 6 heritage that is being used on the Air Jordan 36. Here is also where you get to see the JT logo for this PE, but as you travel up the rest of the tag, you see that there is a bunch of perforations, and as you would expect, there's a total of 36 of those to go along with the shoe's namesake. And speaking of the tongue, it is a bit on the thin side, especially when compared to the tongue from last year's model. It's not drastic, but you can definitely feel it. So if that's a big thing or a part of your comfort, just know that these will fit a little bit different than the model from last year. If you really look closely at the upper though, you'll also notice that they use Morse code along the ribbon that connects to the heel. I won't tell you exactly what it says, but just know that there's a 36 somewhere, there's a name somewhere, and there's a few other things that I'll let you guys figure out on your own once you get your own pair in hand. I can't ruin all the fun. Back at the heel, we have a few more items that help differentiate the shoe from others in the signature line, such as this heel pull with the word 36 on it, similar to the font that we saw on top of the box. You do have a bit of a spoiler there as well that connects the Morse code ribbon. And then below that, you actually have the Nike Air logo. For those of you with an eagle eye, you'll actually notice that the stitching for the Nike Air logo has a 2 on one side and a 3 on the other, obviously as an homage to Michael Jordan and his number 23. And moving down towards the rest of the shoe, you notice that they have this like spackle print on the foam, but then you also have this gold medallion sort of protrusion at the very back of the heel. Jordan Brand says this represents the chain that Michael Jordan often wore. I feel like the most obvious place that I've seen him wearing that is in the dunk contest. In true Jordan fashion, there's actually 6 loops in the chain, which is done intentionally to equal the 6 championships that Michael Jordan wore when he was with the Bulls. Got to keep that storytelling going. You can't front. Now for the rest of the midsole, you see that the band that runs along the middle of the foam, and it almost looks like an IT band on your leg. Nike is calling this a stabilizer wing, but it's made out of TPU. And while this does add an aesthetic to the midsole look, I'm not sure how much they actually stabilize the sneaker. They are pretty soft to the touch and feel more like a highly designed highlight for the consumer, but I'm not sure the overall value it actually contributes to the performance of the shoe. So as I mentioned earlier, the shoe features a foam carrier for the midsole that houses a few different things when it comes to comfort and responsiveness. First, let's talk about the insole. Keeping with the mantra of reducing weight, Jordan Brand perforated the shoe basically everywhere to help lower the weight, and they also gave us a more firm insole than you would have imagined. Part of it is because they've continued to move towards Zoom and included an Air Zoom Strobel board. For those that don't know what a Strobel board is, it's when you're making a shoe, you have this board in the middle which serves as the go-between for the upper and the midsole and outsole. The Zoom unit, well, it actually runs from the heel to the toe and gives me that throwback feeling to the KDs from a few years ago that helped kick off the Zoom Air Strobel board trend. I also have a similar setup in my Jordan 1 Zooms as well, and it provides a nice bit of responsiveness and comfort as you pound through a strenuous 48 minutes on the basketball court. In addition to the Zoom Strobel, Jordan Brand actually double stacked the Zoom in the forefoot. I've tried these on and walked around in the house a little bit, and you can really feel the double stack in the forefoot. Just from like the brief time that I had them on, you feel the bounciness as soon as you put them on and take a step. Even just running your hand across the outsole, you feel the Zoom unit extruding from the shoe, which will in turn make sure you get that compression you need and that responsiveness of it against your foot. I personally feel it's right near like the ball of my foot and slightly behind it. There's technically Zoom in the heel as well, but it's from the Strobel board, but I didn't feel it anywhere near as pronounced as I did with the forefoot unit. If you were a fan of the 35, you know that this is a slightly different setup. Both the forefoot and the rear had their own separate units that played with the Eclipse plate in the 35. In fact, if you look closely enough, you could actually see the Zoom pod sticking out. That feature, if you want to call it that, is actually gone on the 36. The front unit is sealed inside the midsole, though you can technically see the Zoom Strobel through the Air Zoom carve-out window that they have on the heel of the outsole. Which brings me to the rest of the outsole. Jordan Brand is using the traditional herringbone pattern that they've optimized for multi-directional traction. The rubber they are using does feel a little on the softer side and the thickness is a bit shallow, but thinking about this is more of a gym shoe than an outdoor or multi-purpose pair, so I wouldn't dig too much into that. Earlier, I mentioned the Air Jordan 6 call out on the tongue, and Jordan Brand took another swipe at it on the outsole of this pair. Right at the center, there is a window that shows the number 36, which is the same shape as the windows on the tongue of the Air Jordan 6, a feature that Mike wanted back in his playing days to help him adjust his shoes really quickly. For the Eclipse plate, Jordan Brand has modified it so that you don't really see it anymore, though I will say the textured material that they're using to hide it provides a nice pop of color to the design. I have to give it a go to see if you get that same feel on the court, but as far as the visual cues we got from the 34 and 35, those are pretty much gone. Overall, though, the 36 feels more like an evolution of what we've seen over the last few years than a complete change like we felt with the change from like the 27 to the 28. Since the 28, the shoe has slowly been evolving. The tech remained largely the same with a few tweaks here and there that changed the fit and the feel of the shoe, but overall, the performance has remained largely unchanged, which is great. This year, the big focus was on making the shoe lighter with a jacquard lino weave and the reductions in other areas of the shoe. You do get the lighter feel right out the box, and this should definitely help with fatigue and keeping your legs fresher over the long term. But again, I'll actually have to get some runs in these before I can give you a full review on how they perform. Fit wise, I'd say go true to size, but if you're like me and you're in between sizes, go up to the bigger size. This pair here is an 11 and it fits a little on the snug side. I know if I wanted to wear thicker socks, they would be a little tight, and from what I can tell so far, the weave doesn't have a lot of give to it, but that could also change after you break them in and get them beat up a little bit on the court, so we'll just have to see. And then that leads me to just like my thoughts about Jordan Brand. They're in a strange position in the market. They're leading the way and they have the lead with signature shoes like they have for the past couple of decades, and the energy around their releases are always strong, but keeping that energy past the initial launch has always been a bit of a challenge. In the past, they've tried collabs and other things, and they do move the needle a little bit depending on who they are, but maintaining that energy throughout the year has been challenging to say the least. Can the Jordan 36 help that? I think we'll have to see. I don't doubt that these will be great on the court and play well and people will like them, but will this shoe right here be enough to really change the conversation around Jordan throughout the year? And that's something that we'll have to see. So yeah, those are my first thoughts and impressions of the Air Jordan 36 and cover just about everything that you need to know. My first thoughts are I'm impressed, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.